I'd like to hear from you all to see how do you define mental toughness? How has that played a role, whether it be in your athletic career and then also transitioning into your firefighting career?
Being a part of a team and also running track and field, having that individualistic pressure, also martial arts and things of that nature helped me build my mental toughness because you have to take accountability. So if you win, you take all praise. When you lose, how do you deal with that? How do you cope with that? You can't make excuses. You have to figure out, okay, you're going to compete against this individual again next week. What are you going to do to prepare to win this time? It's not a failure unless you quit, unless you just give up. But if you are determined to be the best or to accomplish a goal, then you're going to have to regroup, right? And that's something that you have to do. You have to take a moment to yourself, meditate, or go back to the drawing board and practice even harder. When you're out there on the field with your team, you could depend on one another to help pick up the slack if somebody is lacking in one area or not. And you can lean on your teammates. We're all going to make mistakes, right? We're all going to feel like we failed at one point or another, or we're coming up short. But when you're determined and you have a goal in mind, what are you going to do? How are you going to accomplish your goal? All right. And that's just a character building process.
On top of that, like for mental toughness too, and just building off what he was saying is there are times in part of this career and even in athletics that kind of correlate where you have those negative thoughts that come into your head and it's like those little words, the voice that says you can't do this, you're not good enough, maybe you shouldn't be doing that, but not saying them out loud, but just keep them in your mind and pushing them back and getting through that. Like ignore those negative thoughts and keep thriving and pushing. Like our sports, there are games of failures as well, especially softball. You fail 7 out of 10 times and at bats, you're batting at 300, you're an All-American. In a school, you're failing. That's a big F, basically. But as a game of failure, you're learning how to recover, basically. Recovery is the name of the game we say at my department is we're going to fail on the fire ground when we're practicing and training. It's what you do after that failure that really means something. Are you just going to lay there or are you going to get up and actually do something about it? And that's like toward that mental fortitude, basically, is saying, pushing through those thoughts, pushing through that grind, that hard part of your career and making something out of it. Learning from those failures, continue to grow. It's not really a failure if you're learning from it as well. That's how you better yourself within this career and athletics. And that's how they kind of correlate through the pathway.
Mm-hmm. I have absolutely experienced all of that with sports and all of that myself. And I back what both of you say, but also from the time that, I graduated, finished playing basketball out in Kansas, that experience of being kind of like out there on my own to the point where I got hired on there was about a 7-year sort of period where, I was working those various jobs. I was driving those cars, I was working at Costco. There was this gap where something was missing for me. In my life, I built that mental toughness and I definitely had some of my hardest times of like not being able to find that career that I wanted. Not being able to, was like, okay, I played basketball all these years and I know I'm passionate about that sport. I can be passionate about something and I just didn't know where to direct it. And so for me, that mental toughness, when I did figure out that career path, I had a good foundation. So when I got hired on with the academy, I got into Heartland Fire Academy. I did Cal Fire and I got into San Diego's Fire Academy. I was like, I knew how to navigate that. But it took for me all those experiences to also build that mental toughness of just life experiences, on top of the sports and all of that.
Being a student athlete in college is probably one of the toughest things ever. I mean, we can all agree, right? Because it's not only you're an athlete and you have to perform on Fridays and Saturdays, but you have to have that mental toughness to write that 20-page paper that's due on Monday, but then still make 10 tackles on Friday or Saturday. And being able to know a whole playbook on top of the training, on top of the treatment, the physical aspect of lifting weights, going to workouts. So it was The athletics career definitely prepared me for the fire services because the academies, they're tough. You're waking up at 5 a.m, your academy's starting, you're doing PT, then you go into a school session where you're watching PowerPoints of how to climb ladder, or you're going over the whole process of what we're going to do today in that training. Then you have to be able to train that day, then you'll break and then do another training and then come back the next day and your body's beat up and do it all over again.
You guys are laughing.
Sounds relate. Sounds familiar.
Yeah,
Long
because
days.
I mean, you got to be able to learn how to still yourself with that hard work and dedication and be mentally strong and also physically strong.
And if you love what you do, you're going to do it too. You have that fire and that push, that no quit, especially if you're enjoying. Like for our sports, we loved what we did, and that's why we went day in and day out. And we loved being in the fire academy, and that's why we went day in and day out, waking up at 5 a.m., pushing through the grind, basically. So if you have a passion for something, pursue it. That grind is going to come easy to you. It's hard, don't get me wrong, but it's going to come easy to you because you want to keep pushing it and keep improving and having that no quit throughout your career. And we're continuously learning as firefighters too. And we're going to continue to learn and continue push through our workouts as well, and through those fires and those EMS calls. And the day we stop learning is basically the day we're going to retire. And there's a continuous job that we continue to learn and push through, and that goes with the mental game too.